going to talk through it. If yours is not exactly like mine, it's okay. Remember, there are different ways to approach this. And then talk about the answer. So you should have cross multiplied. I didn't really see this issue here if you guys did this, about doing the wrong one. Anyone who did this problem, I saw you multiplied it to the right one. Didn't really see an issue here, but I'll just mention, make sure you are adding and subtracting correctly. If you're moving this over here, this would end up being a positive, not a negative. Double check your math in the calculator. But this one did give you a fraction or a decimal, 23 over 5 or 4.6, either or. Questions on that one? I know I didn't walk it through step by step. The same major issues I saw or any issues at all. Some of us are writing, so I'll let you write. Disregard this number 9 because it doesn't have the 8 and you guys do. So this is, your 9 is like this 10. Anyway. Most of you started to distribute correctly. I did see a similar or common issue of multiplying here but getting a negative here or bringing down a negative. So make sure when you're multiplying two negatives together, you get a positive because that will change your entire answer. Another thing I saw is when we are combining like terms on the same side, we're doing whatever it says. So if it says 8y minus 2y, we're going to do exactly this that. 8y minus 2y to get 6y. We aren't doing the opposite and doing like plus 2y or anything like that. Same thing with the constants, 32 plus 2, not 32 minus 2. Anytime you're moving things to the other side, make sure you're doing the opposite. And then you should have divided to get 4. Divided by 9 at the end to get 4. Do we have any questions on that one? This one I feel like we made not as many mistakes, or it felt better. Writing, so I'll let you finish that and then we'll go on to the next page. Alright, anyone still need this one? And then 3 and 5. You're good. So the different colors are different ways you could have done this. If you, which most of you did, distributed, focus on the blue. If you tried to get rid of the fractions, then you could use the red, but I think most of you distributed instead of that. So disregard the red if that's not what you did. As I mentioned before, as you start to solve this, if you see that these are exactly the same, you can stop there. That would be infinitely many solutions, and you don't have to continue. But if maybe you don't remember that and you keep going, you could get infinitely many solutions a different way. In that method, I only moved the 8R. I didn't move the 12, but if you got 0 equals 0, that would also tell you IMS. Questions on that one? And then for 5, start solving it the same way. Be careful with your negatives again. Make sure this is a positive 28. Combine terms on the same side using whatever it says. If here you see that you have the same number here but different numbers here, that could tell you already this is going to be no solution. If you didn't recognize that, you could keep going. Start solving, and you would either get negative 13 equals 42 or 0 equals 55. Both of those will tell you no solution. Anyone have questions on that one? So we're going to go over the 2 problems on the quick check. If you had any other questions on the quick check that maybe you were trying, we'll go over those as well. Right. For number 2, I had my answer somewhere up here. What answers did we get? Franklin?
X equals 6.
X equals 6. Anyone get anything different? I'm not saying if that's right or wrong just yet. Did we all get X equals 6? Does anyone need to see that one work out? Okay. Alright, so for this one, the easiest way to start this is to distribute -3 to both of these. In your calculator, if you don't remember how to do that, if you didn't grab your calculator, now would be a good time to do that. Nicole, did I give you a calculator? Okay. So -3 times 5. I would go into alpha y equals, and that first one you can hit 1 or you can hit enter and type in your fraction. 5, go down, hit 6. You should have gotten -5/2, or if you wanted to make that a decimal, you could. Let me start this over. And then -3 times 2 would be +6. From there, we could combine like terms. Whatever it says, do that. So 5 plus 6 would be 11. And then start to move things to the other side. Does not matter how you do that. For me, I like positive numbers, so I move 5 halves over by adding it. So this would give us, when we add our fractions, we're just doing our numerators, or you could have done this in your calculator. 1 plus 5, so that would give us 6/2, which could be simplified, but I'm going to wait. I'm also going to go back and do this at the same time. Add 7 to both sides. To get 18. 6 divided by 2 would give us 3x, and then we could divide both sides to get 6. Those of you that got 6, good job. Okay, questions on that one? Now with 3, this was solved already. You just had to see what type of solution this is. So you could see that from the end, or they really didn't even need to do this step. You could really see this from right here. What type of solution was this? Casper? No solution. And how do we know that? 2 does not equal 0. 6 does not equal 4. The variable is gone. All of those things. Did we have any other questions on this quick check that we wanted to go over, had questions about? So we went through all of this page. If I asked you what is the difference between between the following 2 sentences, yep. It's raining cats and dogs, and it's literally raining cats and dogs. Franco.
One is metaphorically, one's literally.
Okay. The metaphorical is like an exaggeration. The literal would be there are actual cats and dogs falling out of the sky. So this would be another example where literal is used, or maybe not used well, because usually we don't have signs in our hands. But in math, a literal equation we do actually solve, but we're not going to get an actual answer. That's like the confusing part. Like, we do get an answer, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be a numerical answer. So the answer we get is not really going to make sense. But we'll cross that bridge here in a second. When we solve literal equations, they will be very similar to how we solve equations in general. We're just not going to get a numerical answer. So some of these are actual equations where we solve and we get an answer. Some of them are not, to kind of show you how to solve them. So if I asked you how would you solve this for x, number 1, what would we do? Divide by 2 on both sides. To get x by itself, we get 5, some numerical answer. This is an actual equation. But now in example 2, we have something similar. It's set up the same way, but we have only variables. So if we were trying to get h by itself, what do you think we would do? They're already being multiplied. G and h are already next to one another, so they're already multiplying. So to get rid of g, we would do what? Divide. We're going to do that to both sides, but in this case, m and g are not like terms, so they're not going to cancel or anything like that. These g's are, and our answer is going to be m over g. We have no idea what that means. We don't have any numbers to input. If we did, we could say whatever m is, whatever g is, divide them, and we get h. But we don't. So we just say whatever m is, divide that by g, and we get h. So sometimes you'll look at these, and you'll get answers, and maybe you'll think, what are we even doing? Solving literal equations. Just keep that thought in mind. All right, questions so far? Example 3 is back to a regular equation. How would we solve that? 5 on sides. 2x equals 6, and then it's back to what we did before, where we divide both sides by 2. Number 4. Go ahead, Precious. We could. There's nothing saying we can't. So I'm going to write that and show you what happens. If we subtracted 11 from 5, we'd end up with negative 6 and 0, and then would have to move the 6 back. So we created an extra step for ourselves if we do that. So there's nothing saying we can't. There's just extra step. Okay. Other questions before we start 4? For example 4, set up the same way, but just with variables. What would we do first?
Minus b.
Subtract b on both sides. But when we do this, c and b are not like terms, so we're really just moving it to the other side. We have ax equals c minus b. And then what?
Divide
By.
by x.
We're solving for x, so not by x, but by a. And we're going to divide this entire side by a. So x equals c minus b all over a. No idea what that means, but if we had numbers to input, we could solve that, but we don't. So that's our equation. questions on that?
So, like, why are we doing that?
We have to solve literal equations. And the literal equation is this. It's in the curriculum. How about that? That's the answer to your question. Right. Other questions? Right, we're not going to do 5 and 6. Pick one of those, 5 or 6.
They're the same thing.
Basically, but they're solving different things. Go. 5. So if we're solving 5, we're trying to get x by itself. Now in this case, this is a literal equation because we're not going to get an actual numerical answer because they have 2 different variables. So our goal is to get x by itself. We have to get rid of the 3. We also have to get rid of the -6 and the y, but right now they're together. So we could get rid of that at the same time. How would we do that? How would we get rid of, or what would we get rid of first?
Plus 6y.
Add 6y to both sides, yep. And you can do that both at the same time. Again, 17 and 6y are not like terms, so we're just moving it to the other side. And then to get x by itself,
No.
divide by 3. In this case, I am going to divide separately because I know that 6 is divisible by 3, so it's going to simplify. So these will go away, this will be x. 17 over 3 cannot simplify, so that's going to stay the same. But 6 divided by 3 would give us 2. So in this case, if I knew what y was, I could find my x, but I don't. So this is just going to stay like that.
Why would you divide by 3?
Separately.
Yeah.
If I were to divide all together, you could leave it like this. But if you wanted to simplify it, this would be its most simplified. Sometimes we see, oh, I can divide 6 by 3 and then start to simplify, but we can't do it if it's all in one fraction. They have to be separate. Other questions on that one? Seven and 8 are similar, but just variables this time. You want to do 7 or 8? 8. So in 8, we are solving for a. What would we do first? Subtract CD on both sides. Again, these are not like terms, so we're just moving it. And then by b. Yep. In this case, I'm going to divide everything by b because nothing pairs the same. Nothing is going to simplify. So a equals g minus cd all over b. Again, we don't know what that means. If we had all the inputs, we could find a value for a, but we don't. Questions on that one? On the next page, I want you to go through and look and see what questions you wouldn't be sure how to start, what questions you're going to go through together. We'll have questions about. 6. 4. 4 is 2. Did someone say 4?
So did we say 6, 4, and
2, 4, 6, 3.
Yeah, 3.
Okay. 2, 3, 4, 6. Okay. We'll do those, and then there are more on the next page, so if you have more questions, we can go through those. So we're going to start with 2, and we got to get t by itself. What are we thinking would be our first step?
Minus P.
Which one?
The left P.
So get rid of this p because it's by itself. We have a minus p minus equals PRT. What's nice about problems like this, anytime you are multiplying a bunch of things together, you can divide everything else at the same time. So A minus P all over PR would equal T. A lot of these problems are either real world, used in some sort of formula, something problems. I think this one is something for finance. I don't remember what. Questions on that one? I believe they're starting e-Fast next week, so if you have no idea what that is, I'm assuming they're going to train you guys on that. I don't know. So it won't be like manual holidays. Alright, number 3. We were trying to get f by itself. Right now it is inside parentheses. There are really 2 ways to solve this. One deals with multiplying this 5/9 to everything, so you end up multiplying 5/9 to 32. To avoid that, I'm going to show you a different way. You could still do it that way. You just may have a weird fraction over here. So I know this 5/9 is being multiplied to everything here. So if this 5/9 wasn't here, these parentheses would go away. So I could do something to this 5/9 and make it go away. Does anyone know what?
Multiply by the reciprocal.
Yeah. So take this, flip it, multiply that on both sides. Then this would cancel because you have 45 over 45, which is 1. This will become 9/5 C. Because this fraction is no longer here on the right side, we can drop our parentheses. Then to get f by itself, add 30. So 9/5 C plus 32 equals f. This is actually how you convert between Celsius and Fahrenheit degrees, if you were curious. Questions on 3? For 4, we're trying to get m by itself, we need to get rid of b. How would we do that? There's something, but I didn't hear what you said. Were you going to say something? Multiply both sides by b. So I have v, d, these v's would cancel, and I would just have m. if you can do 3 and 6, those are harder than any questions you're going to see on the quiz or test. So if you can do those two, you'll be great for this section of the test. And quiz. Okay. For number 6, we need to get B1 or B sub 1 by itself. Again, there are 2 different ways to go about doing this. We could multiply everything by 1/2 h, but then we eventually have to get rid of that 1/2 h since we're trying to get B1 by itself. Something else we could do is kind of like what we just did. Get rid of the 1/2 first. So multiply it by a reciprocal. Take this, flip it, and multiply that on both sides. Then these would cancel, and we'd have 2a equals h times b1 plus b2. How would we get rid of the h, though? Divide. We could distribute, but then eventually we'd have to divide by the h, and that might get messy. So here, instead of doing that later, we're just going to do it now. Because then the h's go away, and we're left with just b1 plus b2. And then to get b1 by itself, this, I want to say, is the area of a trapezoid. Look on the next page because it has more practice problems and see if there are any you want to go over, go through, have questions about. We have 7. I will say 5 and 8 are very similar. Any others, Casper? 4. 8. 8. And 6. Any others? We got 4. That's 4, 6, 7, 8. And we'll start with those. So doing 4, we're trying to get m by itself, so we got to get rid of v squared and 2. What would we do first? What about the 2? You were saying 2. What about the 2?
Multiply 2 both sides.
Because then your 2's would cancel. And then we got to get rid of v squared. How would we do that? Divide. In this case, because we're not trying to get v by itself, it being squared doesn't matter. So 2k over v squared equals m. I almost think this is a chemistry problem, like something for Kelvin's. I don't have to settle that. Yes. Mm-hmm. For 6, we would need to add s to both sides. For 7, if we're trying to get r by itself, we got to get rid of the pi, is what that symbol is, and the square. So we could divide by pi first. How would we get rid of the squared? Say it. Sorry, say that again. How do we undo something that's squared? Not divide it, not multiply it, not add it, not subtract it. Take the square root. Or take the square root of something that is squared, they undo each other. But this is like our property of equality. We can't just take the square root of one side, we have to do it to both. So the square and the square root would cancel on this side, and we have the square root of a over pi, which equals r. And that would be our final answer for that. Right. And then we are solving for x. So we need to really get rid of 3j and negative 1. What would we do first? This one. Go ahead. What would we do first?
You subtract 3j.
But when we do that, nothing here has a j, so we're really just moving it. Yeah. If you wanted to, you could rearrange this so it's in alphabetical order. Not necessary, but you could do that. And then here, when we divide everything by -4, we have to do it separately because 2 and -4 are going to simplify, but also this has a negative, so all the signs are going to change. So here, instead of this just being positive, it's now going to be a negative, and we're going to have -9 over 4c. Information to have. This we can simplify to be what?
Negative.
It would be negative, yes.
Negative 2. Yeah, negative 1/2.
Negative 1/2. A or negative a over 2. You could write that either way. This was already negative and we're dividing it by a negative, so this is going to become positive. 3/4 j equals x. So if you are dividing by a negative, be careful because all your signs change. If you're dividing by a number, be careful because you could simplify. Do we have any other questions on any of this? So, I am going to pass out two things to you. One is going to be your review, so you can work on that. The other is going to be just extra practice if you need it. So I would say focus on the review more than the practice, but if you finish the review, go to the practice. And the remaining time in class, you can work on the review, or you can work on your Khan Academy quizzes that are due on Friday. If you need help with any of the review questions or the Khan Academy questions, let me know. I'll be around.